Good morning. We are grateful to gather both in person and online this morning as the Unitarian Universalist Society for a time of music, inspirational words, reflection, and connection. I'm Peggy Garrigus, Director of Congregational and Community Engagement, and your YouTube host for this morning for those who are online. My pronouns are she and her. If you are visiting our service today, welcome. We hope you find the service meaningful. If you're visiting online, there should be a link to a visitor form that will come up in the chat or in the text below the live stream if you want to let us know that you have visited today. If you are here in person, I would invite you to either turn off your phone or else both silence it and turn off your Wi-Fi so that it doesn't interfere with either our service or our Wi-Fi network. Thank you. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't all believe the same things, but we look to 7 principles to guide our lives and actions. One of those principles is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. This morning, we will celebrate and explore this principle through the encouragement that UUS member Brenda Linley offers with her radical optimism. And now over to Jim Laughlin, today's worship associate, for the call together.
Good morning. I'm Jim Laughlin, a worship associate and a long-term member of the UUS. It's wonderful to be here with you this morning. As we gather, we give thanks for and to the land we sit upon and all who have stewarded this land over the centuries, particularly the nations who lived here in interdependence with this land, the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, the Meskwaki, and Sioux nations. As we gather, we know it is so important to come together as a spiritual community to gain the sustenance that we each and all need to help nourish each other. As members of a covenantal faith that expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other, it is good to come together and to affirm that this congregation remains strong and connected wherever we are. To affirm that we have faith and hope in this congregation, in each other, and in the ways we continue to grow together during the challenges of life. To affirm that whatever any of us in our life's journey, whether we come to worship with joy in our hearts, weighted with burdens, in need of rest, or searching for people to engage in the struggle with us, we are glad, and this community is glad that we are here. The call to worship is by Gwen Matthews. Feel that? Each breath, each inhale, exhale. We are living, breathing, connected. We are the whole, complete, beautiful selves that we were born to be. Feel that in your bones, in your muscles, in your heart, in your blood. That is the extraordinary you. The you who was born for this time, this place, this moment. Feel that, the struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss, the grief. It is still you. You are still whole, complete, beautiful, and extraordinary. Feel that. And now, we're opening hymn number 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation. Please rise in body and spirit as you're able. If you're in UUS, sing quietly into your mask. Move your hands or body. If you're at home, we hope you sing as loudly as you'd like.
Once to every soul and nation comes the moment to decide in the strife of truth with falsehood for the good or evil side. Then to stand with truth is noble when we share its wretched crust. Ere the cause bring fame and profit, it is prosperous to be just. Oh, the cause of evil prosper, yet is truth alone is strong. Though the portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, then it the brave one chooses, while the coward stands alone, till the multitude make virtue of the faith they have denied.
You may be seated. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety, to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in the words for lighting the chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle our flame of liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. When we light our candle for justice and healing, we hold space for our understanding of interdependence, that our liberation is bound up with every other person's liberation, and our feelings of rage and heartbreak over the ongoing pandemics of illness and racism, the devastation of the climate chaos, and waves of trauma that are washing over our world. We light this candle that we may not be numb to or lost to injustice, devastation, illness, and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love together to continue engaging with the struggles for liberation, justice, and healing. We light this candle to help remind ourselves that together we are creating resilience and hope. Today, we light this candle. We're particularly mindful of the Supreme Court's ruling on prayer in the schools. As I light this candle, let us hold a time of silence in our hearts to listen to them and perhaps to lift up prayers. Amen.
Good morning. We have reached our time for all ages. I would like to invite any children, youth, those young at heart who would like to come forward and see our pictures up close. You can come join me up here. If you're not interested in coming up and sitting on the ground, our pictures will still be up on the monitors. You can come close. Are you going to be able to see over there? Okay. Alex, you can come closer if you want, or you can sit back there. That's fine too. Our story today is Fortunately by Remy Charlotte. Fortunately, one day, Ned got a letter that said, "Please come to a surprise party." Look at all those things Ned's thinking about. Unfortunately, the party was in Florida, and he was in New York. Do you see him down there? That's sad. New York and Florida are far away. Fortunately, a friend loaned him an airplane. Unfortunately, the motor exploded. Oops. Fun. I think that's unfortunate. Fortunately, there was a parachute in the airplane. Well, that's good, right? Yeah.
I want to skydive without a parachute. Unfortunately, a bird popped.
Oh, that's a good guess. Unfortunately, there was a hole in the parachute. That's a lot like a bird popping it. But fortunately, there was a haystack on the ground.
He's falling head first into it. And unfortunately, it was you.
Oh, that's a good guess. Unfortunately, there was a pitchfork in the haystack.
A pitchfork?
Does Ned look happy there?
Yes.
No. Fortunately, he missed the pitchfork.
No. Unfortunately, he missed the hill.
Oh, did you write this book? Is your name Remy? I think that's a really good guess. Unfortunately, he missed the haystack. Yeah, you got that. But fortunately, he landed in the water.
Unfortunately, there were sharks.
Unfortunately, there were sharks in the water. Fortunately, Ned could swim.
Oh, no. You got away again.
Unfortunately, there were tigers on the land.
Fortunately, he could run fast.
You're right. Fortunately, he could run. Unfortunately, he ran into a deep, dark cave.
But fortunately, there wasn't a bear.
That would be good. Fortunately, he could dig. Good. There's Ned getting away. Unfortunately, he dug himself into a fancy ballroom. Look, you even have some people fainted. They were so surprised that Ned came up through the ground. Fortunately, there was a surprise party going on. And fortunately, the party was for him, because fortunately, it was Ned's birthday.
Dad, you got away. I got it.
The end.
Can I do that one again?
Right now, we are going to sing. All of these lovely people in here are going to sing us to our classes. So if you can all come with me, we'll go on to Ari. All right, Xander, come on.
Join me.
Go now in peace, may love guide all your ways. Beauty be the blessing of your nights and days. Truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds. Faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
As we enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our congregation. We do this by dropping stones into a bowl of water, symbolically immersing your personal joys and sorrows into the flow of life's joys and sorrows. The water surrounds and holds the stone, just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. If you're in the sanctuary, I invite you to come forward, take a stone, place it in the water. If you'd like to share your joy or sorrow in a written form, please go to menti.com and use code 9774-2332, then type in your joy or sorrow. You want to add your name to your joy or sorrow. If you're in the sanctuary, Peggy will have an iPad over here to type in your joy or sorrow. These joys and sorrows will be shown on the screen while people are dropping stones in the water. Please come forward. May we hold the joys and sorrows of our congregation and the wider community tenderly in our hearts and minds today and in the coming days. When we need a listening ear, a heart, or helping hand, may we reach out. When we know the needs, we may offer support and with loving kindness. For it is in sharing our lives, our cares and our joys, and in giving and receiving that we know community most fully, that we have the opportunity to live our covenant with one another. Amen, and blessed be.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love.
Morning. I'm doing a reading of Khalil Gibran. I learned of this reading from Mary Catherine Wallace. I don't think she's here today, but she shared it with my family when we lost our first baby. And it has brought me a lot of comfort over the years. It's an excerpt from one of his longer poems on joy and sorrow. When you are joyous, look deep in your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. So my sermon, homily, talk today, it has two titles. The one in the order of service is The Power of And. I also called it, Why Not Both? Why not both? Before commercials were something you could skip or fast forward through or avoid completely with your streaming options, there was a taco commercial showing people arguing over the merits of a hard-shell taco versus a soft-shell taco. The camera pans to a little girl who shrugs and says, why not both? And. It's a small word, and it can have a big impact. Both. Support your local newspaper, but also IPR. Support your local newspaper and also IPR. I love the word and. I use it in place of but whenever possible. And connects, brings together, but separates, cracks, if you will. Thank you. These are the jokes, people. My mom doesn't like the movie Grease. It bothers her that Sandy changes to get the boy. And I won't challenge my mother on this. I've learned that challenging my mother's worldviews comes at too high a cost, and so I am mindful of when, very rarely, how very softly and whether not often I will choose to do this. This is one of those battles I've conceded, my mother's absolute and complete obliviousness to our battle notwithstanding. As I've thought about this movie over the years, it's the and that I would talk about. Sandy does change, and I think it's because she's seen that Danny is making towards moves for her. He tried out for sports, he lettered in track, he's vulnerable, he tells his friends that Sandy is important to him, and this allows Sandy to make her own toward moves. She smokes very badly, and just for show, she teases her hair, she dresses in leather. Danny chose to let down his guard, so Sandy chose and. I learned about the power of and as an instructor in a high school equivalency program. As I was working on the curriculum, I came across an article highlighting the use of and to create a strong, connected voice in writing. I was hooked. My students, some of them chose to embrace it regardless of their tepid response. I make efforts to use and in my life. My father believes that the Bible tells men to be in dominion over women. He was an elder in his church. He was on the church board. Only deacons and elders could be on the church board, and you had to be a man to be a deacon or elder. My dad and the other men in the church mowed the lawn. They tended to the building maintenance. My mom and other women cleaned and prepared meals. My mom took me to the dentist and the doctor. She took me shopping to pick out clothes we could both live with. More on that later. And my dad was there when I got home after school. He made dinner. He was who I snuggled with, and he sang me to sleep. He is deeply entrenched in toxic masculinity, and he's a loving father. Why not both? And my mom, she wanted a little girl so much. She wanted a daughter. She grew up at the tail end of the Depression. In the beginning of World War II, toys were scarce. She wanted a baby doll, a baby girl doll that she could mother and play house with. She was 12 when she finally got that doll, courtesy of an older sister who already had her own kids, all boys, by that time. So my mom was thrilled when I arrived, and the doctor said, "It's a girl." She even checked in with the doctor. "Are you sure?" And I wonder, is there a question she could have asked that would have allowed her to let me be the daughter I am, rather than the daughter she dreamed about? I have 2 older brothers, hence the really happiness that I was a girl. And as a kid, I thought they hung the moon. I followed them around and tried to do all the things they did, resulting in 2 concussions, 3 chipped teeth, and a tomboy phase I can say with confidence is not a phase. My mom wanted tea parties and matching dresses. She wanted to read together quietly and sew and bake cookies. She wanted to play house with a baby doll. And I was a human child with my own thoughts, feelings, and ideas. I wanted to climb trees and build forts in the timber. I wanted to race my bike down the hill and jump the ditch, Evel Knievel style. Chipped teeth, concussions. I wanted to run into the house, smash a couple of cookies in my face, and then head down to the creek and catch some frogs. And we did read. My fondest memories are of my mom and her reading to me Little House on the Prairie, Little House in the Big Woods, Anne of Green Gables, Heidi. My mom instilled a love of reading that I still hold. And I was never the daughter she wanted. I rejected every dress and skirt she suggested. I cast aspersions on the quilting she wanted me to do. I desperately wanted to be seen by her, just as desperately as she wanted me to be the exact replica of this daughter of her imagination. I've been familiar with Phyllis Schlafly since I was pretty young. My mom was a fierce opponent of the Equal Rights Amendment. I remember hearing her hold forth on women being drafted and how awful it would be to have your period in the trenches during war. She also firmly believed in the interpretation of the Bible, that women are submissive to men and therefore do not need rights regarding equal pay. I heard her diatribes on abortion, on demand, and same-sex marriage. And my mom instilled a love of music in me. She was reducing, reusing, and recycling long before I came along. She had an expansive garden, and she hung out her clothes. She used non-toxic cleaners. I hold many of these values still. I don't hang out my clothes. I don't have time for that. I had my first serious relationship in college with a young man, and after my parents met him, my mom called and wanted to meet up. She drove to Iowa City and took me out for lunch. As we were driving back to my residence hall, she decided it was time for the talk. I was in college. She talked about birth control options. She told me about her own sex life with my dad. She said that if I got pregnant, there were choices I could make, and she would support me. And one of those choices was abortion. And now my mom volunteers at a pregnancy support center, which says on its website, if a baby is not in your plans right now, abortion might seem like the best way out. Many women and couples find it empowering to understand all their options before making a final decision. It is an organization that does not support abortion rights. Their goal is to counsel women out of getting an abortion. My mom had her own and. She could believe and accept that her daughter's right to choose while not wanting that same right for others. And my mom is a positive, optimistic person who does not like conflict. And for a long time, I unwittingly supported that. I see good, silver linings, bright sides. In the past, I was too Pollyanna-ish. I took despair, anguish, melancholy, rage, fury, and I swept them under the rug. And those feelings, thoughts, urges, impulses, they don't disappear under that rug. They sit there and they grow and fester and corrupt. In my family, I entertained, I cracked jokes, and became the center of attention to facilitate the avoidance of conflict. Don't talk about anything that is controversial. Don't mention current events. Don't bring up family issues. Sunshine, lollipops, rainbows. That's what we want to hear and talk about. So I became adept at steering clear of difficult conversations with stories and humor. I skillfully circumvented unpleasantness like a bicyclist on a road full of potholes. And now my family rarely gets together. We are disparate and disconnected. Much of this has been my own choice. I do not wish to be around them. I much prefer my chosen family. You may be familiar with this quote, blood is thicker than water. I've heard members of my family toss this phrase around, using it to boast of their commitment or to defend some poor decision. I recently learned there's another quote that is similar to this that reads, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And this is much more aligned with my values. I will choose my family. I will not have it chosen for me. I serve as a worship associate, and a few weeks ago, as I went through the order of service, I came to the bit where we just talked about the SCOTUS ruling on, there were so many SCOTUS rulings we could have addressed, but you light this candle for justice and healing. The words in the service speak of holding space for understanding, of feeling rage and heartbreak, of trauma in our world. And it has been tradition to bring up an all too easy to find appalling news story here for reflection. The weeks prior to that service had seen a mass shooting, a nationwide hunt for an escaped guard and inmate, a leaked document indicating the Supreme Court would overturn the current liberty a woman has regarding abortion, and so many more. As I searched the news for a story to reflect on, I realized I needed something different, something a bit weird and a bit delightful. And I found a sweet story about students at Johns Hopkins who developed Tasty Tape, an edible tape that holds your wrapped food together. It was offbeat and amusing, just what I was looking for. I don't believe we should turn away from the bad news, and I do believe that we can sometimes reflect on the wonders. Howard Zinn wrote this: "To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Because tragedies, traumas, and despicable people, they're not going away. We are still in the midst of a very real and very contagious disease that has been politicized to the point that everything about it is questioned, making it that much more difficult to mitigate its impact. The Kaiser family conducted a poll and found that nearly 80% of the 1,500 people they polled either believe or are not sure if they believe one of eight myths about COVID-19. One of the myths being that the government exaggerated the number of deaths. My own family believes many of those myths. I get it, because that was me, not about COVID, but wanting to believe that's so bad it can't be true. My family didn't and still doesn't want to think or talk about bad stuff. So I would entertain, engage, and take up space to keep everyone from thinking about the bad stuff. Because if we don't talk about the bad stuff, then it won't hurt us. It won't impact us. It's unrealistic optimism. It's sticking your head in the sand and avoiding, pretending that not knowing or acknowledging or not believing will make the bad go away. And optimism is a good thing. I am a radical optimist. I do believe things will turn out okay. And I do what is in my control to facilitate that. I prepare for the classes that I teach. I read to my kids. I wear my seatbelt. I'm vaccinated. I make choices that facilitate an outcome that is positive, and it does not always work. Sometimes I think I'm ready for class and I've prepared the wrong thing. Sometimes my kids would rather play video games than listen to me read. I make mistakes, and I know that occasionally the silver lining is, hey, knucklehead, don't do that again. And sometimes bad stuff that has no rhyme or reason happens. Reverend Forrest Gilmore writes, "Our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, is a glorious statement. Yet we make a profound mistake when we limit it to merely an environmental idea. It is so much more. It is our response to the great dangers of both individualism and oppression. It is our solution to the seeming conflict between the individual and the group. This is the value I uphold as I take care of myself and others, and still choose to engage and do the work, embracing the reality that life here on earth is chaotic and crazy and wonderful and filled with awe. Why not both?"
Excuse me. How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is Inside Out Reentry Community. Inside Out's mission is to support people involved in the criminal legal system and to educate the public to promote healing, restore relationships, and reduce recidivism. Inside Out works with individuals incarcerated throughout Iowa and provides additional assistance to those returning to Johnson County after release, operating a drop-in resource center and offering weekly meetings and mentoring program. On your screen, you will see instructions on how to give online, or you may take this time to write a check and address the envelope to UUS to be put in the mail. If you're attending a service here in the sanctuary, you can give online, but there's a basket for checks in the atrium. The usher can help you find it after the service. You may assist our community partner, contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses, contribute toward your pledge to our society. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the generosity of all who join with us. As you give and receive this offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts. Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. And what has been shared here today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into peace and love and justice. Immediately after service, we'll have time for all to join in conversation and community. If you're online, a link to your Zoom coffee hour is in the service information in the YouTube window, or the connection info you shared in the chat. If you're in person, we'll gather in the fellowship hall or outside for congregation. And now as we close our service, we will sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Please rise as you're able.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shade of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and our minds until we are together again. Spirit of life, show me the light at the center of others. Show me the light at the center of myself. Show me the light at the center of the world. Where I see guilt, show me innocence. When I focus on mistakes, show me how to focus on the efforts at good. Help me to have faith in the goodness of others. Help me have faith in the Spirit within me. Thus may the darkness be cast out. May I cleave to the life that is in my heart. May I see the light in everyone.